You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Did your son die tragically from an overdose when he was to be separated from his girlfriend? What's the best remedy? Sure. Go act in a production of Romeo and Juliet, that makes sense. Not. Amber and Scott discuss. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
You find yourself in the unique position.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
What would you do?
How do you want to handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Romeo, why forth out thou, Romeo?
Wow, it's like I'm whisked away to the land of Shakespeare.
Yeah. Talk about a line that most people still like. I feel like everyone should know what that line actually means, but I still feel like most people don't.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to get an education in Shakespeare in a moment. Let's go ahead and tell folks what we're talking about. This movie is Ghostlight. When a construction worker unexpectedly joins a local theater's production of Romeo and Juliet, the drama on stage starts to mirror his own life. So, yes.
I'm going to put you on the spot, though, because I know you know, but I'm going to let you educate.
I know you know. I know.
Yeah. I'm going to let you educate the viewers, because most people think that when they say, "Wherefore art thou, Romeo?" she's like, dude, where are you? And that's not what she's saying. What is she saying?
Is he dead at that point?
No, he's still very alive.
I don't know.
Do you really not?
I don't think so.
Oh, interesting. So, "Wherefore art thou, Romeo?" basically is her lamenting that he is of the opposite house. Is it Capulet? No, Juliet's the Capulets. He's a Montague, right?
Yeah.
Or the backward. I don't know. It's been a while. But yeah, so she's more lamenting the fact that he is one of them, and thus somebody she's not supposed to be with.
Well, thank you. That was a good flashback to 10th grade. I appreciate that.
Yes, yes. I am full of useless, crappy knowledge that really doesn't do me any good unless I happen to be doing a podcast about a movie that had Shakespeare in it.
Yeah, no, it came in handy today. So this film I actually really enjoyed. It's about a family, a mother, a father, and a very rambunctious, obnoxious daughter.
Oh, I liked her. She's one of my favorite characters I've had in a while.
Yeah, and the actress who played Daisy, I thought she was fantastic.
Oh, yeah, she was amazing.
So we know that there's something that happened to this family, and we're not really sure what, and they allude a couple times to depositions and lawyers and whatnot. And Dan, the dad, he's a construction worker, and he kind of flies off the handle one day, and there's a car that's been zipping through the construction area, and finally he has a physical encounter with this guy and pretty much pulls him out of the car and, grabs him by the neck and kind of snaps a little. And one of the characters, Rita, who had been complaining about all the noise at the construction site, comes out and at the end of the day says, "I need your help with something," and kind of lures him into a table read for Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, which ends up being one of the worst plays that she could have drug him into,
right?
Not knowing that a much milder version, but basically lived a milder version of it with his, spoilers!
Yes, spoilers. Please go watch the film and come back and resume this episode.
Yes. Always with our episodes. Yeah, so dude is definitely the poster child for someone who needs a counselor and won't get one.
Yeah, so where you were trying to go here before we warn folks of our spoilers is what we learn towards the very end of the movie, which is this event that we can tell the family's gone through, is his son killed himself when basically he and his girlfriend were in a great relationship, and her family was going to move them to another state, and the son wanted to move with them, and the dad said no. And then the girl wanted to stay, and they said no. And the young couple in high school was very upset that they couldn't be together. And long story short, she wound up getting some prescription drugs from her home and bringing them over to the son's house, and they both overdosed. And the dad saw them the next morning, and
he made it, or she made it. He didn't.
Yeah, the son died, and the girl woke up.
Yeah, so he's got just a lot of shit in his life, and that's just kind of dragging him down.
And he doesn't know how Romeo and Juliet ends. Like, he's legitimately like, "What is this about?" And it's a surprise to him.
Yeah, like why can't they just wake up? Why can't they just fucking wake up? Oh, because it's Romeo and Juliet. You don't F with Shakespeare. Like, if you go for your longsword, it shouldn't be a gun on the wall. Sorry, that whole William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, the movie that they show, the Leonardo DiCaprio version that I walked out of and have refused to ever watch. Like, literally, when he went for his longsword and I saw it was a gun, I walked out. I'm like, listen, I'm not a purist, but when MTV gets a hold of Shakespeare and tries to...
Well, I don't think it was an MTV.
Well, it wasn't actually MTV, but
it was in the theaters. It was Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio, and it was a hard, long watch, even if you liked either one of them. But the film, I really enjoyed it a lot, and the characters had lots of good depth with them, because the dad, Dan, he's a construction worker, and he's suppressing his feelings, and then manages to get roped into this theatrical production that kind of deals with this topic that's more close to home than he ever expected, and yet he sticks with it.
Completely inexplicably.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there was no... I mean, I like the movie too, but from a plot premise perspective, if I'm Dan at virtually any point in this process,
yeah,
I'm peace outing.
Yeah, it was so close to home, and there was a couple little outbursts he had about dealing with the content, and then at the end, not understanding why in the world Romeo would kill himself too, because, he's thinking of it through the lens of his son, of like, why would anybody voluntarily do this? But I agree, what would you do scenario, I would probably bail. Like, this is too much, this is too heavy, and I'm looking for an escape.
Like, even on day one, he didn't want to be there, and then they're kind of riding his ass about not doing it the way they want, and he doesn't want to be there, and they're like, well, like, what? You don't want to be there. You could tell at that point, the cast doesn't really want you to be there. This seems like a good opportunity to GTFO.
Yeah, it was a small little theatrical group. I think there was maybe 7 or so folks in the troupe, and they needed someone. And initially, Dan started off as, was it Mercutio?
No, that was her son, or his daughter came in as Mercutio. He was the father, the Capulet.
Okay, so yeah, then they ended up making him Romeo when Rita, the gal who kind of roped him into it, and then he became Romeo when younger Romeo stormed off in a very woke fit. So yeah, it was had a lot of interesting perspectives from it, and I think about, what would you do? So if the lawsuit was basically the family suing the other family for making the drugs easily accessible, saying, regardless of what the young kids have been going through, if the drugs hadn't been easily accessible, that might not have occurred. So looking at it from that lens of what would you do if your child died and you need to lash out and deal with it or cope with it. And, he made it very clear to the young girl, saying, I didn't want you to die. I just... I didn't want you to not wake up. I just wanted him to also wake up. So that's heavy.
Yeah. I mean, I get it to a point. I mean, again, this isn't something I've been through myself. I mean, I don't even have children, let alone having lost one. But as we know, if we followed the cinema IRL journey, I'm really into mental health. And mental health is a lot of things. And it's a lot of not keeping your emotions and stuff bottled up. You've got to be able to talk about things like this, because that's how if you bottle stuff up, all you're going to do is just powder keg it. And he was the classic example of that. You bottle it up, bottle it up, bottle it up, bottle it up. Well, listen, it's just like a powder keg. You can slam gunpowder in that powder keg all you want. And whenever you're slamming it, and it's safe, and it's safe, and it's safe, and it's safe until it gets full and gets a fuse lit, and then it just goes boom. And then all of a sudden you're dragging a dude out of his car.
And the daughter, confronted him in a therapy session that she was mandated to go to when she got kicked out of school, of saying either you blow up or you leave.
Which is true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly, either he avoids it or he explodes on it. And I mean, it's pretty classic avoidance when it comes to mental health. So I don't know. I mean, I've heard it said, and I've echoed it many times, that for the most part, we should all be born assigned a therapist. There's not a person walking the planet that wouldn't benefit from having a therapist, at least because, I mean, it's amazing. Even when you've got stuff that's going well in your world, there's always things that come up. Like, I do have a therapist that I see right now. I think it's about every 3 weeks. And there's always things that are coming up that I run past her and try to get guidance on and fresh perspective, because sometimes that's what it is. It's just getting a different perspective on something and being able to see it from a different lens. And when you don't talk about things, you don't get that additional perspective. So you only get your own, which, when that perspective is involved, not understanding why your son killed himself, that could get, and does get, toxic real fast.
Well, the other part that struck me as well is that creativity can be a great outlet. And although the subject matter of Romeo and Juliet was way too close to home, he kind of got lost and found some degree of therapy in this new group of friends and being different.
Oh yeah, no.
He was.
Him doing that was perfect. It was amazing for him. And I think it was very therapeutic. He just happened to stumble across one of the worst frickin' scripts he could have had to deal with, especially since he was in that group for a while before any of them had any clue that that's what he was going through in real life. Because, again, he doesn't talk about it.
Yeah, and if you go through some sort of traumatic experience, personally, based on my experience, I think can be useful. If you do find that creative outlet, maybe it's drawing, maybe it's painting, maybe it's writing. In his case, it was, the theater. Maybe it's songwriting, maybe it's music, but some sort of avenue to help process some of those emotions, I think, can be really useful.
Yeah, and you can process stuff in weird ways. I mean, for those of you who know me, you probably know that one of my other projects is I do a fantasy football podcast, which feels like it should be more off the cuff, but it's actually rather scripted. And I have to write these scripts out in advance and tweak them and work on the creative side of all of that. And it's extremely therapeutic in a way, even if it has nothing to do with your problem. Just activating that side of the brain, regardless of what it is, can be very, very therapeutic, as we saw here. Like, even though the subject matter was so bad, it was still good and therapeutic. Yeah,
and that's why many folks that are psychologists or in the mental health field or self-development talk about the power of daily journaling, is really just getting things out of your head, getting them down, and sometimes you shock yourself. I had recently participated in this writing exercise, and it was called reverse journaling. And basically, you write something to God, and then you write the response back that God would give you. And I wrote this, and I wrote my response back from God, and it was really kind of shocking and accurate, and it wasn't anything that I had ever thought of before.
I mean, if you ever need an answer from God, you could just...
I know where this is going. Nope.
Sorry, Mom.
But yeah, it was really profound, and it was a thought that I had never thought of, and it literally just, as soon as I wrote as me, it just came out as my response from God. And I think when you challenge your brain to think and get things out, your brain will act in all kinds of surprising and amazing ways.
It's true. It really is. I mean, I'm generally a pretty analytical person. There's not a lot of creativity that happens in my life naturally, so I do have to kind of force it. But I do like forcing it. Like I do like I do like the way my brain responds and deals with whatever issues I'm having to deal with at the time. Like it's been a great outlet, and I don't think there's anyone that wouldn't benefit from having some form of a creative outlet. And it can be anything. I mean, it can be music, it can be writing, it can be comedy, it can be acting, it can be painting. I mean, literally anything that you would consider creative. I mean, there's a billion and one things I didn't mention. So it's definitely, what would you do? I would find a creative outlet.
Yeah. Definitely work with a therapist or some other mental health professional if you go through some sort of trauma and your whole family's dealing with it, and process your emotions. Just don't push them down.
Yep. I think that's pretty much the long and short of this one. So there's a lot of other things we could talk about. Like I said, I really love the daughter character. She was amazing. I could probably go over a lot of stuff with her, but at this point, then we become like a movie review show. So I'm going to ask you if you have any final thoughts.
Nope, I'll just stick with the theme of the film and close with Break a Leg.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release at least 1 and generally 2 to 3 episodes a week, so we have new content regularly. Until next time.